And I'm here to talk a little bit about my new cookbook. I'm going to do some recipe demos. I'm going to answer your questions. And then at the end, we're going to do a little giveaway. So let's get started. So the first thing is just the cover reveal of my book. It is called The New Autoimmune Protocol. And I know a lot of you guys are here because you've been following me on social media. Maybe you get my emails, or maybe you're a follower here on YouTube. This is a book that I wrote after 15 years of my own experience with autoimmune disease and then working in the AIP community using a protocol called the Autoimmune Protocol. And today, AIP has changed. So if you're somebody who has been familiar with AIP in the past, it is a diet and lifestyle protocol that is an elimination phase and then a reintroduction phase that helps people identify their food-driven sensitivities and how eating helps support their best health. And in the past, AIP had a framework that was built on theory. And what I want you guys to know today is that we have multiple studies using AIP in actual humans with various autoimmune conditions, including Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, IBD, which includes Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, psoriasis. And so we have learned so much, especially in the last 5 to 7 years, about how to personalize and how to tweak the protocol. And also, the community has learned a lot about just how to actually make this work in real life. So since all that medical research was published, I decided to put out an updated guide that combines all of my history with the AIP movement, but also what practitioners have been seeing and what we've learned from all of that medical research. And it's also a cookbook. So it's been fully updated with the new protocol, which includes modified AIP, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but it also includes recipes for core AIP, which is kind of the original version that has been studied. So that's the overview. I'm really proud of this one, and I'm really thrilled how many people are excited about it, especially because the modified AIP includes a lot of ingredients that just make it easier and more sustainable to do AIP in real life. So before I transition, I'm just going to check in with Noah, who is helping me manage everything behind the scenes. We're all good to go. It sounds good. I'm getting a thumbs up. So thank you guys for bearing with me. It's been a while since I've done a live event. Okay, so
if they update their feed, they should be able to get the giveaway link in the descriptions now and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, if you guys refresh, the giveaway link is in the description, and so you should just be able to click over and definitely make sure that you submit to enter that, because we'll be drawing that live at the end of the event. So now, and also if you guys have any questions, Noah is going to be collecting questions. So just drop those in the chat. Where I was actually starting when the feed disappeared was, let us know where you're tuning in from. If you want to just drop in the chat and tell me where you're from, that would be awesome. And then if you have any questions at any point, I will actually give Noah a license to interrupt me if you have a cooking question while I'm doing the cooking demo. But other than that, I will be taking all of your questions at the end. And I did have some people email in some questions earlier. So the first demo that we're going to do is a breakfast recipe, and it is a salmon salad, which I know you might be like, why would I eat that for breakfast? And the reality is you can eat it for any meal. So the thing that I want you to think about on AIP, what you're looking for breakfast, is something that is protein rich, anti-inflammatory, and really easy, because in the first thing in the morning, we don't want to be doing any cooking, right? So you could use tuna for this recipe, but I use salmon here. Salmon is a cold water fatty fish, has lots of anti-inflammatory fats, really good for people with inflammatory issues like autoimmune disease. And so I've got 2 cans of salmon here. They have just been drained, and I'm going to pop them in a bowl with some really nice fresh ingredients. I've got a whole green apple diced here. I've got a couple of ribs of celery that have been diced. I've got a couple green onion stalks, the greens and the white parts. And then I'm going to add a little bit of coconut yogurt. So this is a probiotic trick. Normally in this type of salad, you might use a mayo, but on the Autoimmune Protocol, both core and modified, we are avoiding eggs. Eggs are a typically a high allergen food. Not everybody reacts to them, but here I use coconut yogurt because it really adds a nice creamy texture, and it also adds a little bit of probiotic goodness to the meal. And then we're going to add a really nice, generous helping of dill. We've got a little olive oil, and then I'm also going to add some salt. And we're going to mix all of this up, you know, just like you would a traditional mayo-based tuna or salmon salad. And you're going to work everything in there nice and completely. And what's great about this kind of recipe, so, you know, first thing in the morning, you could easily make like half of this with 1 can of salmon. This serves about 2. Or you could make a few portions and then keep that in the fridge so that you just have something ready to go. And you'll notice that a lot of times on key, breakfast doesn't really look like breakfast. It can look like something that you might eat for lunch or for dinner. It might look like a soup. Soup is actually one of my favorite breakfast options, especially when I am feeling like I'm having a little flare, like I don't want to do any cooking, especially because breakfast soup has like broth and everything ready to go. So I'm just going to throw this in a bowl here, and you guys can see it. It really is that easy. You don't need to do an elaborate meal. I'm actually going to put this over here so you can see it. You know, this is the tuna or the salmon salad. And then I like to top it with an avocado just for something a little fresh on top. And here's a trick with avocados. You know, avocados can be kind of dangerous to pit. I like to cut them in half. We won the avocado lottery, Noah, right? I told you I was picking the best one for the live stream, and my picker is definitely not broken today. So what you never want to do is take your knife and grab the pit like that. That is, you know, my firefighter over here is looking at me and shaking his head. What I like to do is just to set it on the cutting board and grab the pit like this. That way your hand isn't underneath it, and you can easily then deal with the pit that way. And another trick is if you put the avocado down, and then, you know, this really only works with kind of firmer avocados. You can slice it with the pit on and then remove the skin like this. So if you are trying to make your meal look like maybe my photo in my recipe book, you know, this is how we do it, and we make it look all beautiful and perfect and staged. Otherwise, you know, you can just mash up your avocado, throw it on top, and call it a day. So this is the salmon salad. I'm going to clear this a little bit for the next recipe, and you guys can see how easy that is to have for a breakfast. Next, I'm going to make a Mandarin chicken salad. So I've got cabbage here. This is Savoy or Napa cabbage. It's a little bit softer than your typical cabbage. And the technique I'm going to show you guys today is massaging. You can do this with kale, and you can do it with cabbage. And so one of the things that you're going to need is a little bit of salt. You're going to sprinkle the salt on there, maybe 1/4 teaspoon for this amount of cabbage. This is about half of a Napa cabbage. And then we're going to throw a little bit of oil. You could use olive or avocado. And then you're going to give your cabbage a nice massage. And so for anybody who feels like raw kale, raw cabbage just kind of doesn't digest for them, but they want to get the benefits of those raw fibers, you know, raw foods, if you're somebody who has digestive issues, sometimes raw foods, especially cruciferous vegetables like kale and cabbage, broccoli, you know, they're not for you. And that's fine. You know yourself. But for others, they can be a really good way to get nutrients, and enjoying them not cooked actually keeps some of that nutrient density, especially things like vitamin C are lost a lot when we cook. So you guys can see this bowl was full, and I've been massaging this for a minute, and it's really reducing a lot in volume. And that just means it's going to be a lot easier for you to digest. And also, it's going to make a beautiful flavor with a little bit of that oil and that salt. So I'm gonna go give my hands a little reset here in the sink for a second. All right, so the rest of this salad, I've got chicken, and in the book, I show you a recipe for easy poached chicken, which is how you're just gonna make shredded chicken. You just saute one side of a chicken breast that's been salted a little bit. You're gonna add a little broth or water, flip that chicken breast, cover it, and then cook it in the liquid for about 10 to 15 minutes. Let it cool, and then you've got shredded chicken. You can use that shredded chicken in anything, and this is obviously a salad, but you could throw it in soup. You could throw it, like if I do like a pureed or a roasted vegetable soup, it's a really nice thing to have a little shredded chicken on hand. For herbs, I've got mint and cilantro, 50-50 mix, about a quarter cup each. And then I've also got a carrot chopped up, and then some tangerines. And this is just a lovely flavor booster for a salad like this. And then for the dressing, in addition, it's already got some oil and some salt from the massage, but I also have a little bit of fish sauce. Fish sauce adds some umami. If you're someone who even really doesn't love the flavor of fish, I guarantee you have been having fish sauce when you go out to eat and stuff, because it really does boost flavor. And then we've got a little coconut aminos. This is a soy sauce substitute, and it's made out of coconut. And then I've got a little more oil in here. So we're just gonna mix that on and then toss everything up. And you've got a beautiful chicken, a little bit of that raw cabbage. And one thing that I really like about massaged salads like this cabbage or kale salad is that they do exceptionally well when you keep them in the fridge. So this will keep for a few days. The only change that I will make is to not put the tangerines in until I'm ready to eat it. So I might toss all of this up, put it in some portion size to-go containers in my fridge, and then portion out a mandarin, tangerine, or something right before, and then serve it right up. And so it's good to go. You guys can see how delicious that is. We're probably gonna do this once we get off the live stream. Okay, and then for the third recipe that I'm gonna show you guys today, I need to stage a little bit. I have my food processor, and I need the ingredients. Okay, I need a little help here clearing. Okay, so I wanted to do a dessert because everybody asks about desserts on core and modified AIP. AIP is not a sugar free protocol. That is a misconception. Some people think that they need to be super extreme and really not take in. And, while we don't want you eating lots of treats and AIP-fied baked goods and stuff, honestly, my opinion on that is that it's a waste of your time, just because cooking nourishing, nutrient-dense food, it's going to take a lot of energy, especially if you're somebody who has been eating a lot of convenience items in the past. But we want to have a sweet treat. We want to have some celebrations, and I actually have recipes like for full on birthday cake in this book. So if you have a celebration, you have an event, you need to do AIP, you need to get married. I have had people make my recipes at their weddings, which is just so special. Definitely make that treat and, include that. Because life does not stop because you have an autoimmune disease and because you are trying to manage your health. The recipe that I want to show you right now is a little bit more of those, daily driver type of treats. This is something that you could have all the time. It's really not high in sugar. It has really good ingredients, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So it is a blackberry mousse made with blackberries and avocados. And I've lost, my avocados are over here. I was going to say I've lost my avocados. I've got a couple cups of avocados. Now, these guys were not the perfect avocado that I had earlier for the salmon salad. They were the ones that were a little bit softer. So I've mashed them here. I'm going to throw them in my food processor. And you might be thinking, I thought this was a dessert, Mickey. Why are you putting avocado in my dessert? And I promise you, just wait. So we're gonna stick a couple cups of mashed avocado. We've got about a cup and a half of fresh blackberries. We've got a third of a cup of honey, which is not gonna wanna go in my food processor, but I'm gonna do the best using an avocado or a blackberry to not make a mess. I've got a quarter cup of juice. Now you could use cranberry, pomegranate, or blueberry juice. This is just to thin it perfectly. And we might even use a little more juice to thin it more. We've got a little bit of lemon or lime juice. We've got a little bit of vanilla extract. And now we are going to process this on low. Excuse the noise. I'm gonna take my metal spoon here and scrape the sides once, because sometimes there's some honey or some blackberry that gets stuck. But you see that avocado doesn't really look like an avocado anymore. Okay. So now, that needs a little blending. Blending it on high. So once that is perfectly blended, which I'm not going to subject you guys to perfect blending, you can place it in jars like this. I have a better utensil for this. And you can place it in the fridge and it will just firm up a little bit. And my favorite way to enjoy this, I like to place these little jars in the fridge. And then, over here, I really like to put some coconut yogurt on top. So this is Kalina. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but they make a Greek style coconut yogurt that I think is a complete game changer for the dairy-free yogurt scene. And I love to just add a plop of this dairy-free yogurt. I like to add some cute little blackberries to the top. So you could make, that recipe makes maybe 4 of these, and stick this in the fridge, little tops on them, and then you've got a really nice little dessert to enjoy in an afternoon, after dinner. This is avocado. You've got phytonutrients from the beautiful purple. You've got fiber from the berries. You've got the probiotics from the coconut yogurt. Of course, you don't have to use the coconut yogurt if you're somebody who's sensitive to coconut, which is very common in this community. This base doesn't use any coconut. You saw it was just avocado, a little honey. You could use maple syrup if you don't like honey. You could use raspberries if your garden has instead of blackberries. Super flexible and super delicious. And I'm going to not put these blackberries in my mouth because I will get a seed right in the front of my teeth while I am on a live stream. So I'm going to wait to eat that later. Okay, so that is it for the recipe demos, you guys. Thank you for watching that. I also wanted to do a little show and tell just because of time. These recipes take a little bit of time in the oven, but I just wanted to show you what I'm doing with modified because core AIP is the original protocol that's been studied in all the research. It removes grains, beans, dairy, eggs, nuts, seeds, and nightshades. This is the protocol that has been around for 15 years. This is the one that I did back in the day to manage my Hashimoto's and my celiac. Again, this is the one that all has been studied in the medical research. But today, I'm really recommending modified AIP as a starting point for most people. And modified loosens up a little bit in a few food categories like legumes and beans, seeds, pseudo grains, which are not grains, but they're actually in the seed category. They include things like buckwheat and quinoa. And then also we include ghee. I think I think I got them all. So that is not a ton of foods. Oh, also rice. That's not a ton of foods, but it really expands your ability to prepare convenient and affordable and accessible meals, which is so important because autoimmune disease doesn't really care if you live in a food desert and you can't get to the store that has these fancy ingredients, or maybe you can't afford a ton of fresh meat or vegetables. And so we wanted an option that is just as likely to work for you in helping manage inflammation and helping you feel good, but also not extreme, because we're not doing this just to be extreme. We're doing this because we want to live a healthier life so that we can go on and not have to worry about managing our conditions as much as we already do. So, the few things that I want to show you, the first is a granola, and this is a grain-free granola. It's modified AIP. You can see it's really nice and has a little crunch to it. This is based in buckwheat. It has pumpkin seeds, it has some hemp seeds, it has ground flax to bind it all together, a little sunflower seed butter. It is sweetened with maple syrup, and it's spiced with cardamom. And all of those are seeds, and it's got a good amount of protein. It's a really easy thing that you can, again, with that coconut yogurt, you could have it with a little coconut yogurt. That's what I do. Have some berries, amazing snack. You could also, if you have like an AIP compliant milk, like a coconut milk, if you don't do coconut, you could do tiger nut. If you're making your own milk, you could make sunflower seed milk, which I know people have done. I haven't done it personally, but there are some options for you. And in the book, I also have a recipe for a buckwheat porridge, which is more along the lines of something that I eat for breakfast every day. So I have reintroduced oats, but for the recipe in the book, my porridge, you can actually batch cook it, and it's high protein. So it includes protein, which is a legume. It includes cooked buckwheat, some flax. It's really fiber rich. It's got some seeds. It's really delicious, and you can batch cook it. So again, if you're somebody who was like salmon salad for breakfast is like not for me, you want a more traditional breakfast, you're on modified AIP, these are some really smart options that I've included. And then also I've got a hummus, which everybody knows what hummus is. And oops, I'm dropping oil everywhere. Um, Hummus is AIP friendly when we talk about modified AIP, because it is based with legumes. It's got sesame, which is what the tahini butter is made out of. It's got some olive oil, some garlic, super delicious. So I've included a really basic hummus recipe in the book. And the star is actually my super seed crackers. And you guys can see what those look like there. They are so easy to make. They are sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, and you basically put all the seeds in a bowl. You add some boiling water, you let them sit for about 10 minutes, and then you add arrowroot or tapioca starch and a little salt just to bind it all together. Lay it out on a parchment, bake it at 300 for about an hour, and then you've got these beautiful crispy crackers, and you can eat those with hummus. This is like a game changer for a snack. So modified AIP is really fun because we get some foods that are just make things a little bit easier. And like a snack, nobody really I don't want to say nobody, but snacks are hard for people on AIP. And so I'm really excited for you if you are choosing to embark on modified AIP, that there are so many great options. Okay, so now that we have done kind of the show and tell part, Noah has a
There's actually a good
input.
question that
Okay.
just came in that relates. So Awin1963 is asking, is Mickey saying we can start with modified AIP or move to modified once we've gone through the first 30, 60, 90 days?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. Modified or core. So I'm gonna stop there and just transition. And before I transition, I just want to tell anyone who has joined in the last few minutes while I was doing these cooking demos, I am demonstrating recipes from my new book, The New Autoimmune Protocol. It is out for pre-order now. There should be at some point a pre-order link in the description. I know we got kind of messed up with the live streams, but enter to win. Today, I'm giving away a pre-order copy of the book. I'm also giving away a whole collection. These are all of my books. I basically have just been writing books about AIP and autoimmune disease for the last 15 years. So one winner is going to whole library of my books. One winner is going to get a one-on-one consult with me just to ask questions about implementation or whatever. Or if you're a provider and you're in this space because you help other people, we can chat business. And then the third giveaway is a 3-pack of this Get Saucy Tikka Masala sauce. This is a company that makes all organic AIP sauces, and this is their first release. It is so good. All you have to do is have like a pan of maybe sauteed chicken breast or that shredded chicken I was talking about earlier, cook up a zucchini or some broccoli or whatever vegetable you like in the pan, throw this in, and you have dinner. It makes things so easy. So one winner is going to be getting a 3-pack of that. So the link is in the description, and you have to be enter right now because we are going to be picking the winner here in probably 20 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to do the Q&A, and I'm going to start with that question. It sounds like this person has done core AIP and then they want to actually move to modified. So the difference between core AIP and modified AIP is just a few key ingredients. It's legumes, pseudo grains, rice, ghee, and seeds. And I recommend if you haven't started yet, I think you should start with modified AIP, and here's why. Modified AIP actually gets almost the same results as core AIP. It just hasn't been studied yet. And the reason why I know this is because I teach the AIP Certified Coach Practitioner Training Program. I've trained over 1,000 healthcare providers how to implement AIP. And when we changed the protocol, when we introduced modified AIP, how we did it was we interviewed all of these providers and sought their feedback about what was working, which foods people could reintroduce, which foods they couldn't. And these were foods that were on a list of like, most people actually don't have a problem with them. And so we made a big leap. We decided to change the protocol and have modified as an option that would make it easier, more sustainable, and more affordable because the original protocol has a lot of barriers, especially for specific people. Maybe you're somebody that is in a lot of pain and chopping is really hard for you. Of course, it's going to be really hard to do a protocol where you have to be cooking all of your food. So having some options where you can use some convenience foods like, this hummus is made with canned beans, having some rice and adding that into your meals, it's just so expansive. So I really encourage for anyone who hasn't started yet, start with modified. You can always backtrack and go to core AIP if that's something that you decide. Maybe you're working with a provider, that's something that might work for you. Maybe you're somebody who has a condition that's been studied. So like IBD, they found 73% of IBD patients went into clinical remission within 6 weeks using core AIP. If you're in IBD, you're in an active flare, and those odds sound great. Maybe you want to do core AIP. I totally understand that. But for most people, there's over 100 autoimmune conditions. We haven't studied all of them. I would rather it be easier for you to sustain day in, day out. I would rather it be more affordable. That's what's going to make it doable for you. So I think modified AIP is the best starting point. Now, I know the next question is usually, well, I started with core AIP and then I want to shift to modified, which is, I think, this person's question. You can always do that at any time. You just start tomorrow eating those modified foods. Just make sure that the length of the total protocol is at least 30 days in the elimination phase. And you guys can refer back to my videos on my YouTube channel. I have a video on the elimination phase, the transition phase, the reintroduction phase, exactly how to do it. And you'll know that you need to be in elimination for at least 30 days and experience meaningful positive benefit before reintroducing foods. All right, so I am ready for the next question.
Okay, well, we have one quick question that just came in. Will you be sharing the recipes after the video?
So I will be sharing a lot of recipes from the book in the lead up. These recipes specifically, I'm just trying to inspire you guys. They are in the book and they are exclusive to the book. So I'm hoping that you will pre-order. I also know that if you rewatch this, you can absolutely make these ones that I demoed, maybe not the crackers or the granola, those you're going to have to measure, but like the mandarin salad and the blackberry mousse and the salmon salad, you can rewatch that and figure out exactly how much of everything. It's not science. But definitely stay tuned because I will be releasing about 10 recipes here and there to promote the book.
Okay, so Whitney asks, her doctor recommended Core AIP, and she's been following it since August, but she's lost around 30 pounds and is now feeling concerned about being underweight. How do you approach deciding whether to stay on Core AIP or transition to a modified AIP
Okay.
at this point?
So it sounds like I'm just going to repeat a little bit in case you guys can't hear well. Whitney started Core AIP in August. She's lost 30 pounds. She's doing this under the care of a practitioner, but she's concerned that she's lost too much weight. And honestly, Whitney, I'm concerned that you have been in the elimination phase for 6 months. And this actually happens commonly when providers learn about AIP. They are learning about the results from the medical studies. They're telling people about it. They're guiding them to do the elimination phase. And then they are perhaps being successful, but then they're not given an off ramp. And that is reintroduction. So 6 months, since August, that is too long in the elimination phase without reintroducing foods. So I would encourage Whitney to go watch my reintroduction video. And I would definitely make that transition to modified AIP. And then I would start reintroducing foods because 6 months is longer than we recommend. It's actually as long as most people should stay in elimination. And one of the reasons is that unintended changes like that weight loss. Some people come to AIP, they have some weight to lose, but other people come to with like a condition where maybe, you have IBD or celiac or, unintentional weight loss is also common. And so if you stay in that restricted phase too long, that can definitely happen. So I definitely would start reintroductions. And if you don't feel better yet, that's time for troubleshooting, not for like digging in harder for the elimination phase. Okay. Take a sip of water while you.
Okay, so the next one comes from Emma Elf Z7SL. She has Hashi's, was on a core diet religiously for about 8 months with no improvement in antibody readings. She had to stop as it was impacting her marriage. Is modified as effective? And how long for antibody improvement?
Okay, I love this question because we know that symptom improvement does not change when antibodies change with patients with Hashimoto's. So Hashimoto's is one specific autoimmune disease. It is commonly said the most common autoimmune condition. It affects the thyroid for those that are not Hashimoto's patients. I am a Hashimoto's patient myself. A really important thing to know is you want to go by how you feel. And we have 2 studies using the Autoimmune Protocol in patients with Hashimoto's. One of them was done here in the US, another one was done in Poland. Both of them found massive, massive, massive symptom improvement for patients with Hashimoto's whose thyroid levels were normal, but they still had lots of symptoms. And those symptoms changed by using different questionnaires. And so I would encourage you guys, I actually have a video coming out on this maybe in the next week or 2. I can't remember the exact date, a YouTube video and podcast breaking down all of the results of this study. But it is really important to know that in both of these studies, the antibodies didn't change. And that's something that I've observed when I look in research to correlate. Does somebody with Hashimoto's feel a certain way when their antibodies are a certain way? And I think that answer is no. That is just my personal opinion as, master's degree level nutritionist. There are people out there that disagree with me, but I have seen time and time again, people have high antibodies and feel great. So the antibodies are not the thing you want to worry about. You want to worry about your symptoms. So if you've been in the elimination phase for 6 months, you feel like your symptoms were not managed, that's time for troubleshooting. And, I don't want to get too deep into that with this video, but that is really a sign that you could go to modified to make it easier on your relationship, easier on your finances, easier logistically, while you work on some of the underlying things, maybe some lifestyle things. There's so many other areas that could be causing you issues. And if you're feeling better, then it's time to reintroduce foods because that's really what we're in for. We want to find out what is actually working for us so that we can move on in a way that is sustainable. Okay, next question.
Awin 1963 asks, is there a particular protein to carb, veggie, or fat percentages we should be eating at each meal?
Okay, macros. It sounds like, protein, fat, carb. It's so individual. So the thing that I really want to make sure that you guys hone in on is just getting enough protein. And, it really kind of depends who you are, what life stage you are in, what kind of activity you do, what your goals are. That's a whole discussion that I hope to do on a podcast episode pretty soon. But really, I like to think 4 to 6 ounce of protein, that's going to be a piece of meat, chicken, steak, seafood, whatever on your plate. The rest of the plate should be vegetables, and then it should be seasoned with like some oil, lots of herbs. I really don't like to overthink it more than that. Now, if you are an athlete and you are trying to gain muscle or you're trying to recover from activity, you might be doing equations of, grams per pound or kilogram of your body weight in order to meet your goals. That's a whole nother thing. But really, I just think about protein as we have a minimum requirement for protein, and it's about like 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And so beyond that, I don't worry about it too much. So don't be in too end of the extreme of like, carnivore, like not eating any vegetables is definitely not good for us. And we know the microbiome really suffers when we do that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, not really eating enough protein to meet those basic protein needs is not good enough. So hopefully I will give you guys more nuanced guidance in the future. But if you're a macro person and you're training, maybe take that guidance and apply it onto AIP, to meet your goals there.
Related question, do you notice a significant variation in nutrition density among types of cabbage, like Taiwanese versus green versus Savoy?
Yeah. So, first of all, if you're not eating cabbage, start eating cabbage. And it doesn't really matter what type of cabbage you're eating. And honestly, this applies to vegetables. If you're someone who's not eating a lot of vegetables, I'd love for you to start eating vegetables with whatever vegetable you like. Because not everybody likes vegetables or the same ones or whatever. And you just have to start with something that feels good to you. Now, nutrient density is something that my friend Sarah Ballantyne, I definitely recommend following her for this type of question, really goes into detail about the nutrient density of all the different species of plant foods and animal foods and everything. My philosophy is just if you like it, eat it. Eat a lot of variety if you can. And if you're somebody who just hasn't experimented much with different vegetables, try one new thing a week. And if you find something you don't like, guess what? You are an adult and you don't have to eat it. You can move on to something else. So if you're someone who's like, you know what, I really just like carrots and spinach, that's a great place to start. So that's what I would encourage you to do. I like the Savoy cabbage specifically because it's a little bit softer texturally. I think that it is just kind of delightful to work with and eat in this type of salad. But you could easily make this type of salad with a different type of cabbage, a purple cabbage. The color is so beautiful, it will kind of stain your hands and your cutting board a little bit. But that just means it has a lot of phytonutrients. That color really means something for us when we eat it. And so eating colorful foods is really amazing.
So Josie has a question. She said she consumed food she's supposed to be eliminating in that first 30-day period. Does she need to start over?
Great question. The short answer is no. Now, I would have a caveat here. If you have celiac disease and you consume gluten during the elimination phase, that's going to create a reaction that we know lasts for maybe many weeks. And so, if you really had a horrible reaction and you feel like you've backslid and you're super sick, you're going to have to take enough time that you need to get the good feeling on elimination. And so, what we're really looking for before we is measurable improvement over baseline. So if you're like coasting phase, you feel like you've been feeling better week after week, maybe your skin has cleared up, maybe your digestion feels good, maybe you had a little psoriasis in your elbows and it's just kind of resolving a little bit. And then you have a food that you didn't know was in something someone cooked for you. There's a couple pathways. First of all, nothing happens. I would say just continue on. And then whenever you're ready to reintroduce foods, as long as those improvements have stuck, you can reintroduce foods. Now, if you have that food, maybe you get gluten or at a restaurant or something, and then your psoriasis just comes back with a vengeance. you can't start reintroducing foods because you're not going to be able to tell, right? You had some improvements and then something happened, you had a setback. Now there's an obvious sign that things have gone in the wrong direction. In that case, you kind of need to go back and wait until that clears up enough for you to clean the slate again. So it's not really about a strict rule about an amount of time, although the immune system really likes about 3 weeks to kind of forget a trigger, which is why we recommend 30 days in the elimination phase. But kind of depending on your response, I would either kind of go back, spend a little more time, or if you got lucky, didn't have a reaction, I would just proceed as normal and enter reintroductions when the timing is right with how you're feeling.
All right. So Elise Gibson asks, are there any tips for navigating folks in different phases of the elimination and reintroduction if they're in the same household?
Oh, this is a great question. So, two people in the same household and they're in different phases of the elimination, or they might actually even be one be doing core AIP, another person being modified AIP. Okay, so what I like to do in this case is say you've got someone on core AIP and you've got people that eat the other way. I like to make the base of the household diet core AIP with add ons. So, say Noah and I'm doing core AIP, he has reintroduced things. I'm going to make myself an AIP chili that doesn't have any beans. It's got meat, it's got broth, it's really nutrient dense, delicious. Everybody loves it. He's going to have a pot of rice on the side and he's just going to add a scoop of rice to his bowl. We're making one meal, right? But he's just having rice with his. Or if he is somebody who doesn't eat AIP and he's my partner that likes bread and eats it, maybe he's going to get himself some bread and toast it in his own dedicated toaster and eat that with my AIP chili. So we're not doing work to manage multiple meals for multiple family members. We're creating a core meal plan that mostly works with the way that I eat and that he just gets extra stuff on top. And so if you have multiple people in your household, like with modified AIP, this might actually be like there's a liver pate or, there's a core AIP friendly snack. And then there's kind of like, some crackers or something for the other person. And hopefully you can think about how to do that without creating extra work where, especially if the person who's on the most restricted diet is then expected to prepare the meals for everybody else in the household, which happens sometimes. Try to make all of those meals with a basis of the most restricted protocol and then add things on. Hopefully that makes it easy.
So a user asks, have you heard whether autoimmune protocol benefits individuals suffering from RA?
RA, we have qualitative research out of New Zealand, and then an AIP certified coach, Julianne Taylor, has actually research during COVID that's waiting publication. And so the answer is yes. And I can link this in the description. I'm doing videos on all these different medical studies, but yes, we have IBD, very good evidence for IBD, multiple studies, Hashimoto's, eczema and psoriasis. The study has been completed but not published yet, so we're waiting for that. RA, one has been published and another one's waiting. And then all the other conditions, what I would encourage you guys, there's over 100 conditions, and so they haven't all been studied yet, but you never know what's going to happen. And so there are lots of stories on the Autoimmune Wellness website that are very inspiring of people with different combinations and complex, rare autoimmune conditions that you can seek out. But also, you can do your own self experiment and see what works. And I hope that if you have a rare autoimmune condition or even something that's common that we haven't studied, get in touch with me. I would love to share your story on the blog. That is something that has been this incredible resource for people, inspire them to see what the possibilities are, because in some cases we don't know, but if you experience this profound healing, that makes me so happy, that makes everybody in this community. Why we're out here sharing all of this is because I want you to be able to just feel great and go on and live your life and not really have to worry about food or lifestyle as much as we do sometimes when we're like in the thick of it. So okay. I think we're getting close to giveaways. What do you think? Okay, so last chance for anyone. The giveaway link is in the description, autoimmunewellness.com/enter, and you verified that it's working and everyone is doing giveaways. Okay, so I am first going to give away, let's see, we're going to do Get Saucy first. So if you guys have joined since I gave the description, Get Saucy is a company that is founded by a founder that has IBD, who did AIP himself, and he's like, this is just not very convenient. There's nothing I can buy at the grocery store to make easy food. So he partnered with an incredible chef, Suhan. They came up with this formulation for this chicken tikka, or not chicken, tikka masala sauce. And they have lots of other sauces in development, but I'm giving away a 3-pack of their AIP sauce for a US based winner. So, Noah, will you tell me how
We
many?
have 83 submissions.
Okay, we got 83 giveaway entrants. Okay, we're gonna pick 43.
Okay, 43 is Luann Bourne.
Okay, Luann is the winner of the Get Saucy package. So we are going to email you, Luann. All right, congratulations. So the second giveaway is going to be a complete collection of my books, including my new book, The New Autoimmune Protocol, which I hope if you guys don't win, I hope that you go pre-order. I'm going to tell you for a second why pre-orders are so important. This is published traditionally with my publisher, Rodale. I have self-published in the past, so I have had to do all of my own publicity and marketing and everything for my book releases. And this time I have a really great publisher and a really great team behind me, and I'm really hoping that they put. So the pre-order is worth like so many books after it comes out. So if you can help me out with a pre-order, that would be incredibly lovely. This winner is also going to win all of my books. So this is the Autoimmune Paleo Cookbook. This is the book that started it all. I wrote the very first recipe collection for AIP back in 2013. And this is the book that I wrote after I got sick with Hashimoto's and celiac and used AIP. I was actually very much in my recovery when I wrote this book. It has 100 recipes for core AIP and hopefully still a really great resource for you guys. I also wrote the Autoimmune Wellness Handbook. This book actually talks about AIP and all of the lifestyle, and also like how to talk to your doctor, how to collaborate with your providers, how to inform yourself. So it's not just about diet, but also about some of the lifestyle. Has a bunch of recipes, and I co-wrote this with Angie Alt. And then my most recent book is called The Nutrient Dense Kitchen, and this includes all AIP recipes that focus on nutrient density. So there's lots of broths and seafoods and fermented foods and colorful vegetables, but all presented in a way that I think you guys can really find accessible and fun. So the winner of that, so are we still at 83? Okay, we're gonna do 83. We're gonna the last person who entered. Holly Nelson Johnson, you have won the pack. We will be emailing you about that. And then the final giveaway, the big one, is going to be the call with me. Again, for any business owners or practitioners, this can be a business call, and for any individuals that have autoimmune conditions, this can be a strategy call for picking my brain about AIP and giving you some recommendations. Let's see, 1 to 83. We're gonna.
Now you have 85.
85. Well, I'm going to go with number 15 because in my heart, that's the person that I think needs it right now.
Karina Van Lennep.
Karina. All right. Karina has won the call with me. So thank you guys. I will be emailing the winners. I hope Noah was tabulating who won. And thank you guys so much for spending all of this time with me and for being in the chat. I hope that you guys are listening to the podcast, the Autoimmune Wellness Podcast. It's been here on YouTube. And thank you so much for sharing this time with me. And I sincerely hope that you guys are finding something of value, that you're really experiencing this community, interacting with everyone, and, being on the channels on Instagram and everything. And I hope that I have shared something that you find helpful, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much.